Coach Massi here, CEO of M2 Speed, Strength, and Performance with another episode of Move Your Feet. First thing I'd like to do is I'd like to give a big shout out to the 2021 New York State Class AA football champions, Carmel High School football Rams. Aside from that, we're back again with another episode, and we're going to take a viewer's email, and I'd like to read that to you. It says, "Dear Coaches Massi, I work with a lot of combat martial artists, and I've been really enjoying your pop-up progression series. Could you please summarize the entire progression and regression in your next episode," which would be today, "and also provide me with some examples by which to calculate metrics? Thanks so much, Lila from Fight Fitness." Well, Lila, we're going to try our best on that. So I'm going to call Coach Matt in. And Matt, we got to put this to bed today. We've been doing this pop-up progression regression ad nauseum, and I know people have been having fun with it, but today, let's put it to bed. So we're going to go through the actual pop-up progression regression and try to summarize it, but we're not going to go as far back to like the get up, get down, and the goalies. Please refer to the previous episodes for that, but today we're just going to kind of take a look at really how we get to it. So Matt, if you could just step on back on the turf, face that way, just refresh the viewers' minds. What is the pop-up itself? Boom. So there's the pop-up. It's an explosive movement. He pops up. He's got some mobility requirement, obviously some dead stall force requirement, and that's the pop-up. But how did we get to that? Not everybody can do that, so you can't put anything into play after that pop-up unless you can actually get to that. So the first thing we have to get them to is the rock back. Matt, same way, face that way, give them that sagittal view, and just show them what the rock back looks like. That's the rock back. Cool. Now, if they can't get to the rock back, or they can't get to the loaded rock back, which would be that position with some sort of load, hugging a medicine ball, a plate, a tsunami bar, a PB vest, any way you would want to load that movement, you have to kind of get them to this. And most people respond really well with this. These are just 2 PB super bands here. And he's going to get down and assume that kneeling position, right? So all we're going to do is he's going to utilize that band to put a little pressure on it, and he's going to help himself basically come up and then go back down slowly. Now here's where you're going to have the client or athlete play around a little bit with where they set this band up. He can pull his hips further forward, he can get further back. However the client or athlete that's trying to get into that position needs to utilize those bands. That's sort of where they set that hip line. And we like to talk about vertical line and vertical line awareness a lot. So bang, show them one more time. If they can't get to that rock back, that's how you have them continue to work it. Beyond that, the further regression is getting into the get up, get down, and getting some hip mobility going with the goalie's movements. Eventually they will get to that. But you can't get to the next couple of exercises we're going to do without getting to that pop-up first. So one really cool exercise. We didn't invent this stuff. We're just throwing information out there. We hope you guys are enjoying it. One movement we're going to show you today is going to be the pop-up to the medicine ball push to wall. So Maddie will go back and assume his position. While he's doing that, I'll step out of frame real quick and grab a stopwatch. And what Matt's going to basically show you is he's going to set up to do that pop-up to a medicine ball push to the wall. So give him a shot there, Maddie. Stay in frame and on you. Pull back. Good. Do it again. Try not to get killed. And like we say, unedited, unadulterated, and always on the lookout for potential hazards. Rock back. Good. So you see Maddie's not just rocking back, he's popping up, he's exploding through the movement, and he's delivering that ball to the wall. So I believe the second part of Lila's question was how to sort of calculate metrics. And well, I would say the simplest things to do would be, very honestly, just see how long it takes from first twitch to the time they get onto their feet. So Matt, we're going to do a pop-up, and we're going to time you from first twitch, no ball, first twitch to the time he lands. So Lila, you're going to want to make the athlete or client go on their go you have to recognize it. You have to hit first twitch to the time they land on their feet. So, real quick, Matt, just rest there. The degree of the pop-up gets a little bit subjective because some people are really good at throwing their hip line up and through. Some people don't even really meet the requirement of an actual pop-up because they don't really pop up. They more so just kind of sneak their feet under them. So what you might want to do is you're probably going to want to use marks on the wall. You might want to get a ruler. You might want to just mark every so many inches in some chalk or some white, like on these mats we have in the back. Occasionally we'll use a piece of chalk and we'll just mark some lines on it to make sure that objectively you can see that they get to a particular hip depth. But nevertheless, the way we usually just sort of calculate metrics is to take the time it takes from first twitch or first flinch to the time they land the movement. So I'm going to set up next to the client, and if I was actually, and I don't want to go too far out of frame, if I had markings in the back, I'd try to get around front, but I don't want to block the view for you guys, and I'd make sure his hip line meets that metric or meets that depth. And I would just, from the time he twitches, I would set him up, say, set up, on you. Okay, so we got about 0.45 seconds. From the time he twitched to the time he landed in that pop-up, okay? And then, you can kind of take a look and you can tell your client, I think you have a little bit too much rock back in it. I need you to get your feet up and through quicker. I need you to get your SI joint, your pelvic girdle more up and through, your hips up and through quicker. And that's really the first metric. Now, we're going to talk a lot more about this in mid-July. I'm in Chicago speaking on becoming a hypernova, speed, force, max, and velocity-based training. I'm bringing Junior with me, so we're going to have a good time there. We'll talk about how to average things like this out. But once again, that's really a very, very simple way to start measuring the movement over time and start to build some averages and calculate metrics. Now, I'll show you another super simple movement, not reinventing the wheel. But so Maddie will do that pop up to a hurdle jump. Okay, we have simple PB power hurdle here, first place hurdle. So Matt, you're just gonna pop up, hit those feet, and try to limit the amount of time that you have ground contact. Okay, so watch the movement first. Good. Okay, so right there, Matt basically provides you with two metrics: the time from first twitch to the landing to the completion of the entire movement. Now, also, if you want to get fancy, Lila, you can measure the ground contact time and separate that out. If you want to try to take 3 measurements, which would be, if you could line back up again, Maddie. Let's look at 1. Please just come to pop-up. So, on his twitch, on you, 0.44. There's your first metric. The second metric would be from the time he comes up, he hops over and completes the movement. But that third metric is very tough to get in line. So in other words, even using a split, if you wanted to take a look at the ground contact time, it becomes a very difficult third metric to put in play as part of the entire movement. You might need technology or a second coach, or what you may need to do is just get the time from the time he goes into his pop-up to the time he finishes the jump. Take a few of those times, average it out, then concentrate on the ground contact time. So let me show you how we're going to get a time over the whole course of the movement. This is simple stuff. So Matt, you're going to do the entire movement. You're going to pop up and you're going to get over the hurdle. I'm just going to measure the entire time from the time he flinches to the time he completes. So I'm not going to separate it. I'm not going to segment or segregate time number 1, which I could. That's a whole formula. That's for another day. That's for Chicago in July of 2022. So Matt, do the entire movement. Okay, 1.20 for the entire movement. Now, real quick, let's take a look how we might separate out his ground contact time and get that as a separate metric. It requires a quick finger, but we're going to get this done. So, same thing again, pop up, over the hurdle, I'm just staring at his feet. From the time he completes the pop-up, then leaves. So once he strikes the ground on completion of the pop-up, and he leaves, so I started on completion, I ended on the time he leaves to go over the hurdle. One more time. I started on the completion of the pop-up when his feet hit the ground. I ended on the time he leaves to go over the hurdle. So it's a boom, boom. I'm sure it's going to be quick, like lightning, like lightning. So now, flush it out of your head, not first twitch. You're watching for the flats of the feet to hit the ground. You're watching for the feet to leave the ground. Okay, on you. About 0.38. It's that simple. Lila, you start collecting these metrics, and Matt, I'm going to wrap this one up real quick. There are so many ways to play with this. Technology is wonderful. I highly recommend certain types of technology, and we'll talk about that too. But the simplest form of technology that I've been using for about 30 years is right here. It's pretty good. You have to learn how to create formulas that you can average out and provide you with some really good objective data that you can track, and I promise you, it is simpler than you even think. So please do us a favor. In July of 2022, I'm going to be speaking at the Perform Better Summit in Chicago. We're going to be talking about becoming a hypernova. It's all the concepts about speed, force, and max training. It really addresses speed and velocity training, lifting. It's really cool stuff. I'm going to be bringing Junior along with me, and he's way younger and more handsome than me, so he'll be live and in person. We hope you guys will join us. But listen, until next time, just please remember, greatness is forged, not fabricated. My name is Coach Massey, CEO of M2 Speed, Strength, and Performance. That's your day.